The stars above the Varkon cluster shimmered like scattered diamonds, cold and distant, as though they had seen centuries of wars and victories. On the planet Vryn 5, the air was thick with smoke, and the ground shook from the impact of distant explosions. Alien fleets circled in orbit, their bright hulls glinting against the black of space. For the leaders of the Varkon Alliance, today was a day of triumph. They had fought a long war against the humans, believing the final blow had been struck. Entire human colonies had been destroyed and countless ships had been lost. The aliens believed that nothing could stop them now. In the grand hall of Vryn 5's orbital station, the air was filled with music, lights, and the buzz of celebration. Tall, many-limbed aliens danced and cheered, their voices echoing across the domed hall. Leaders raised crystal glasses filled with glowing liquid, toasting their victory. Each alien seemed larger, stronger, and more confident than ever. Ambassadors spoke proudly of their victories. "The humans were clever," said High Chancellor Vorn, his eyes glinting with pride. "But cleverness cannot match power. Today we have shown the galaxy who rules the stars." The room erupted in cheers. The Varkon leaders laughed at the stories of human failures they had collected. Colonies abandoned, fleets destroyed, technology captured. They spoke freely of the humans as if they were a story of the past, not living beings capable of resistance. Yet, not all was quiet on the outskirts of the cluster. Hidden among the jagged debris of a shattered moon, a small human fleet drifted silently, unnoticed by the jubilant aliens. These humans were battle-worn, their ships scarred and patched from countless engagements, but their eyes burned with determination. Captain Alara Kane stood on the bridge of the flagship Horizon's Edge, her hands clasped behind her back. The room was small, with crew members moving quietly, checking instruments and reviewing reports. Despite the heavy losses, the crew's spirit was unbroken. "Sir?" Lieutenant Rian called softly. "They've started their celebration. Reports say the Alliance is drinking and singing like we no longer exist." Alara turned her gaze to the viewport, watching the massive orbital station glitter in the darkness. "Let them celebrate," she said calmly. "They believe the war is over. That is their mistake." Her voice carried no anger, only quiet confidence. Her crew knew her well. Alara was the kind of leader who never panicked, who always found a way forward even when the odds seemed impossible. "Captain," Ryan added, "our supplies are low. If we stay hidden too long, we may not have the strength for a counterattack." Alara nodded. "I know, but patience is a weapon we have. They think we are finished. That belief will make them careless. That is when we strike." Around her, the crew moved with purpose. Engineers checked energy cores, mechanics tightened armor plates, and communications officers monitored alien channels, listening for any sign of weakness. Even with so few resources, the humans were preparing for a battle that no one expected them to win. Outside, space was calm, almost peaceful. The shattered moon cast jagged shadows on the fleet, hiding it from enemy sensors. The aliens had grown arrogant, assuming that all humans were either destroyed or trapped in despair. But humans were not so easily defeated. Alara walked down the narrow corridor to the strategy room. Maps and holographic projections of the Varkon fleet glowed in blue light. Ships moved slowly in the simulations, their formations predictable. The humans studied every movement carefully, noting gaps and weaknesses. "Look here," Alara said, pointing at the holographic display. "They are overconfident. Their capital ships are spread too far. Their defenses assume no one is left to challenge them. If we can strike quickly and precisely, we can disable their command structure before they even realize it." Lieutenant Rian frowned. "It's risky, Captain. If we're discovered, we could lose everything." Alara smiled faintly. "All great victories carry risk. But we have something they don't, imagination. And that is always a stronger weapon than size or strength." The crew exchanged glances. They trusted her. They had survived impossible odds before, and they knew Alara's words were true. Humans had a way of turning hopeless situations into victories. As night fell over Vryn 5, the alien celebrations grew louder. Explosions from their controlled pyrotechnics lit up the sky, reflecting in the human ships like a cruel mirror of what the aliens thought was victory. On the ground, alien dancers spun with unnatural grace, their voices loud and confident. Every cheer reinforced the illusion that humanity had been crushed. In the quiet of the human fleet, Alara addressed her officers. Tomorrow we begin our plan. Every crew member will have a role. Every ship will contribute. And when the time comes, we will remind the galaxy why humans are never to be underestimated. The officers nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Among them was Commander Storym, a seasoned pilot whose calm demeanor inspired even the youngest cadets. Captain, the fleet is ready. We've modified our weapons, repaired the hulls, and prepared boarding teams. Whatever comes, we can handle it. Ilara's eyes softened slightly. Good. That is what I like to hear. Remember, we fight not only for survival, but for the pride and spirit of humanity. Our strength is not in numbers, but in courage, creativity, and willpower. As the humans prepared in secret, the aliens continued their hubris-filled celebrations. High Chancellor Vorn raised his glass and proclaimed, "The humans are finished. Nothing remains of their fleet or spirit. We have won the cluster, and soon the galaxy will know our dominance, unknown to him just a few thousand kilometers away." The horizon's edge and its fleet moved silently through the shadows, readying themselves for a strike that would shatter this arrogance. Among the human crew there were whispers of hope. Stories of past victories against impossible odds were shared quietly. Tales of human explorers, inventors, and warriors who had defied death, conquest, and despair filled the corridors. Ilara paused for a moment, gazing at the stars. She thought of Earth, of the blue planet that had birthed humanity. She remembered the stories of resilience, of generations surviving floods, fires, and conflicts. Humanity was small in the vast galaxy, but never powerless. Tomorrow, she said softly to herself, we remind them who we are. And as the aliens laughed and danced, certain of their triumph, the humans waited in silence, unseen and underestimated, preparing to change the course of history. The stars shone cold and indifferent above, but in the hearts of humans, a fire burned brighter than any alien celebration, a fire of hope, courage, and the unyielding spirit that had always defined humanity. And so, the first act of the human counterstrike began, not with explosions or victory cries, but with quiet determination. A small fleet, battered but unbroken, hiding in shadows, waiting for the moment when the galaxy would witness the true strength of humans. The celebration on Vrin 5 continued late into the night. The aliens were so certain of their victory that they barely noticed the small disturbances in space around them. Alien patrols drifted lazily along orbiting routes, confident that humanity had been crushed. To them, the humans were nothing more than a memory, a story to be told with pride and laughter. Yet, just beyond the shattered moon where the humans hid, the horizon's edge and its fleet moved with careful precision. Captain Ilara Kane paced along the bridge, her gaze steady on the glowing starfield. She knew the importance of patience. One mistake could cost them everything. One misstep, and the galaxy would lose the last free humans in the cluster. Lieutenant Rian monitored alien communications. "Captain, their patrols are light. They don't expect anyone to be here. Sensors show gaps in their fleet formations. They assume the humans are gone." Ilara nodded, a small smile touching her lips. "Then we make the most of their arrogance. Humans have survived far worse odds than this. Tonight we plan. Tomorrow we act." Across the fleet, engineers worked tirelessly, repairing engines, reinforcing hulls, and modifying weapons. They scoured the wreckage of destroyed moons and abandoned satellites, turning scrap metal into powerful new tools. Guns were upgraded, shields reinforced, and stealth systems improved. Every human crew member understood that creativity could replace firepower, and every hand contributed to the effort. Commander Storym approached Ilara quietly. "Captain, the boarding teams are ready. The pilots are trained for maneuver strikes. Even the youngest crew members have been prepared. The fleet is small, but it is clever. That is our advantage." Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Exactly. The aliens have technology, numbers, and confidence. We have ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability. They cannot plan for what they do not see coming. That is why we will win." As humans prepared, subtle disruptions began to appear in the alien ranks. Supply ships were sabotaged by small, undetectable devices. Communication relays went offline at critical moments. Alien leaders grew frustrated but could not determine the cause. They assumed minor technical failures or human error among their own crews. None suspected a coordinated human effort. In the midst of preparation, Ilara gathered her officers. Holographic projections of the Varkan Alliance fleet flickered in blue light above the table. Star systems, patrol routes, and capital ship positions were all carefully mapped. "Our task is not to confront them head-on," she said. We cannot match their numbers or firepower. Instead, we strike where they are weak, where they do not expect it. Precision is our weapon. Surprise is our ally. Lieutenant Ryan's eyes narrowed. We'll be attacking strongholds and command ships. Even small mistakes could be catastrophic. Alara's gaze was unwavering. True, but humans are not defined by avoiding risk. Humans are defined by how they face it. We adapt, we learn, and we act with courage. That is why we survive. That is why we prevail. Below decks, mechanics and engineers laughed quietly as they worked. Despite the stress, there was a shared sense of purpose. Every human knew that they were part of something greater than themselves. Every small repair, every calculated adjustment, every whispered plan mattered. The aliens thought humanity was broken, but here, in the quiet hum of engines and the soft glow of repair lights, humans were alive and focused. The first mission was a test, a strike on a lightly defended alien outpost near a supply route. Captain Kane assigned small teams to disable communications, create diversions, and gather intelligence. Every movement was calculated, every decision precise. Lieutenant Ryan led one of the teams. We move silently, he told his crew. No unnecessary risks. Our goal is to gather information and weaken their coordination. Hit and vanish, that is all. The humans approached the outpost in near silence. Their ships, small and nimble, slipped past the alien sensors with ease. As they drew closer, they observed the alien soldiers celebrating inside, unaware of the approaching threat. With a coordinated strike, humans disabled communication arrays and power generators. The outpost lights flickered and went dark. Alien patrols scrambled, confused and disoriented. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Back on the horizon's edge, Captain Kane watched the mission unfold through live feeds. Her crew held their breath as the teams executed maneuvers with precision. The aliens were beginning to realize that all was not as it seemed. Panic whispered through their ranks, though they refused to admit it. Commander Soren turned to Alara. Captain, they're reacting slower than expected. Our presence is still a secret. This gives us more time to plan further strikes. Alara nodded. Good, this is exactly what we need. Every small victory weakens them, not just physically but mentally. They will grow cautious, suspicious, and fearful. That is when humans strike hardest, when the enemy loses confidence. In the quiet of the human fleet, stories of past battles were told again. Crew members shared memories of daring escapes, clever tactics, and the triumphs that had kept humanity alive for centuries. Each story reminded them of their strength. Each story renewed their courage. Meanwhile, in the alien celebrations, tension began to creep in. Patrol reports were delayed. Minor supply failures occurred. Small outposts were mysteriously damaged. The aliens dismissed these issues at first, blaming faulty systems or minor errors. Yet unease began to spread among the commanders. High Chancellor Vorn frowned as he received another report. Another outpost offline, he growled. This cannot be human activity. They are finished. Our victory is complete. But the humans were indeed there, hidden and watching. Every failed patrol, every minor disruption was carefully planned. Humanity had learned to survive on ingenuity and cunning. They used what little they had to challenge an enemy who believed themselves unbeatable. As the night progressed, the humans grew bolder. Small strike teams targeted isolated supply lines and communication hubs. Alien ships moved slowly to investigate, but human stealth tactics made detection nearly impossible. Every minor victory added to the human advantage, and every alien failure strengthened their morale. Captain Kane addressed her officers one final time before the fleet rested. Remember, every action we take is part of a larger plan. Do not underestimate patience or precision. The aliens think they have won because they see us as small and weak, but strength is not always measured in size. Strength is in creativity and courage and in the refusal to give up. That is why we survive. Her crew nodded, inspired and ready. They understood that the coming days would test them like never before. But for now, there was quiet. The stars shimmered above, indifferent to their struggle, yet reflecting the glimmer of hope that burned within every human heart. In the shadows of the cluster, humanity moved unseen. Their fleet, though small and battered, was alive with purpose. The aliens, confident in their superiority, continued to celebrate. They had not yet realized that the humans had survived, that they had adapted, and that they were preparing to fight back. And somewhere in the darkness, Captain Kane looked toward the distant stars. A single thought filled her mind. The victory the aliens celebrated was premature. Humans had survived. Humans had learned. And when the time was right, humans would strike, and the galaxy would see what they were truly capable of. The first rays of a distant sun glinted off the shattered debris of moons and asteroids as the human fleet gathered its strength. Silence hung in the cold expanse of space, broken only by the hum of engines and the quiet voices of crew members preparing for the battle ahead. Captain Alara Kane stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, her eyes scanning the holographic display of the Varkon Alliance fleet. Ships moved lazily in their orbits, seemingly unaware of the humans lurking nearby. Their overconfidence was palpable, and Alara knew this was the advantage humanity needed. Lieutenant Ryan approached her, a calm determination on his face. "Captain, our boarding teams are in position. Stealth ships are ready to approach the enemy flagship. Our strike craft are prepared for rapid attacks." "All systems are green," Alara nodded. "Good. Remember, the first strike is the most critical. Precision and timing will determine the outcome. This is not about brute force. It is about outthinking the enemy." The human fleet moved slowly through the shadow of a destroyed moon. Their small ships, patched and repaired from countless battles, glinted in the faint light. To the Varkon Alliance, they were invisible, mere debris drifting in space. "Targeting positions are locked," Ryan said. "Strike teams will approach in 30 seconds. Boarding pods ready." Alara's hands rested on the console. She did not speak for a moment, letting the weight of the mission settle. Every human in this fleet knew the risk. A single failure could end their campaign and perhaps even humanity's presence in this sector. Yet every heart burned with courage. "Execute," she commanded. Immediately, small strike ships detached from the main fleet. Their engines were nearly silent, and their hulls were coated in a light reflective material that blended with the surrounding debris. The humans approached the flagship of the Varkon Alliance, a massive vessel bristling with weapons and energy shields. On the flagship's bridge, High Chancellor Vorn lounged with arrogance, sipping from a crystalline glass. "They are gone," he said. "The humans are finished. I will enjoy the tales of our victory for centuries." But alarms suddenly blared. Sensors had picked up faint signatures approaching at incredible speed. Crew members scrambled to investigate, but the readings were brief, disappearing as quickly as they appeared. Panic began to ripple through the alien ranks, though Vorn refused to acknowledge it. "Check all sectors," he barked. "Prepare for potential survivors." Meanwhile, human boarding pods detached from the stealth ships. Each pod was small, carrying only a few crew members. Their mission was clear: infiltrate, sabotage, and gather intelligence. The humans moved with coordination and silent precision, their training and ingenuity guiding every move. Commander Soren led one team directly to the enemy's command deck. "Remember," he whispered, "disable communications first, then create diversions. The flagship must lose coordination before we strike its systems." The boarding teams glided through docking ports and maintenance shafts, unseen by the alien crew. Their movements were silent, almost ghost-like as they bypassed security protocols and avoided patrols. Even the most careful sensors failed to detect them, a testament to human ingenuity and careful planning. Inside the flagship, the aliens were beginning to notice small anomalies. Communication channels were disrupted, weapon systems flickered, and alarms went off sporadically. Officers scrambled to respond, but the disruption seemed random, confusing, and impossible to counter. Alara observed the events from the bridge of the horizon's edge. "Good," she said quietly. "They are reacting, but too slowly. The confusion is spreading. Keep pressure on them." From within the flagship, Commander Soren's team planted disabling devices on energy cores and control terminals. Explosions were small but precise, shutting down systems without causing catastrophic damage. Their goal was not to destroy the ship entirely, but to cripple its ability to command the rest of the fleet. Meanwhile, strike ships targeted smaller vessels surrounding the flagship. Using rapid maneuvers and improvised weapons, humans disabled engines and shields, leaving the ships drifting helplessly in space. Alien pilots were shocked and disoriented. They had expected no resistance, yet humans were striking with precision, intelligence, and courage. Back on the flagship's bridge, alarms screamed as systems failed. High Chancellor Vorn's pride faltered as he realized the human threat was not just surviving. It was effective. "What? How?" he demanded. "This is impossible." A lieutenant approached, sweating. "Sir, boarding teams have infiltrated the ship. Communications are down. Energy systems are failing." Vorn's tentacles twitched in disbelief. "Impossible. The humans are finished. They cannot—" Before he could finish, a small explosion rocked the command deck. Lights flickered. Crew members ducked for cover. The humans had reached critical systems, and chaos spread across the flagship. Alara allowed herself a small nod. "This is why we survived," she said softly. "Not because of firepower, but because we think, adapt, and act. Never underestimate humanity." In the corridors of the flagship, human boarding teams moved swiftly. They avoided confrontation when possible, but when necessary, they fought with agility and strategy rather than brute strength. Every alien they encountered was incapacitated efficiently, minimizing risk and maximizing the impact of their mission. As the flagship's systems continued to fail, communication with the rest of the fleet became impossible. Smaller alien ships drifted aimlessly, unsure of orders. Panic began to spread like wildfire, breaking the once cohesive alien strategy. On the horizon's edge, Alara watched the results of her team's efforts. "This is only the beginning," she said. "The enemy thought the humans were gone. They celebrated too early. Now they will learn what it means to underestimate us." The boarding teams worked quickly, planting charges and disabling core systems. Energy flows were rerouted, engines were jammed, and navigation systems were manipulated. The flagship, once the symbol of the alien victory, was now crippled and at the mercy of the humans. Lieutenant Ryan's team moved to secure intelligence. They accessed data cores and retrieved battle plans, fleet movements, and communications records. Every piece of information would be critical for the next phase of the campaign. Back on the flagship's bridge, Vorn was at a loss. How did they survive?" he muttered. "They should be finished." An officer trembled. "Sir, they are clever. Faster than predicted. Adaptable, it seems. They are using ingenuity instead of force." Vorn's arrogance faltered into fear. For the first time, he realized that the humans were more than just survivors. They were a force that could think, adapt, and overcome. Their small fleet was now turning the tide of what had seemed like an inevitable defeat. Captain Kane observed the chaos with calm focus. She knew the human counterstrike had only just begun. Their small victories here would embolden other humans in the cluster, and sow fear among their enemies. "Prepare for extraction," she ordered. "We have the intelligence we need, and we have dealt them their first blow. Let's return before they regroup completely. This is only the first step in showing the galaxy what humans can do." As the human teams retreated to their pods, explosions and sparks lit the corridors of the alien flagship. Crew members scrambled to regain control, but the damage was done. The humans had struck decisively, efficiently, and without the need for overwhelming force. In the aftermath, the humans regrouped in the shadows of the destroyed moon. Spirits were high. The fleet had not only survived the first counterstrike, but had also achieved a critical victory. Communications were filled with reports of success, quiet celebrations, and renewed determination. Captain Kane addressed her crew one last time before rest. "Today we reminded them that humans are never defeated by numbers or arrogance. They celebrated victory too early, but we are still here. We are clever, adaptable, and brave. That is why we endure. And that is why, when the time comes, humans will triumph." The stars shone above the silent fleet, indifferent yet beautiful. Humanity had struck its first blow. A single human fleet, underestimated and small, had shown that courage, ingenuity, and determination could challenge even the greatest of empires. The aliens, drunk on their previous celebrations, had yet to realize the danger. Humanity had returned, silent and unseen, and the galaxy was about to witness a power that could not be ignored. The first act of counterstrike was complete, but the war was far from over. And somewhere in the darkness, Captain Kane looked to the stars, her eyes burning with purpose. The humans had begun their fight, not just to survive, but to reclaim their place among the stars. The remnants of the alien flagship drifted silently through space, its systems crippled and its crew in panic. High Chancellor Vorn sat in stunned silence, staring at the communications panel that no longer responded. The humans had struck unexpectedly, damaging the heart of his fleet without the advantage of numbers or overwhelming power. His arrogance had blinded him, and now his empire was faltering. Meanwhile, the human fleet regrouped in the shadow of the shattered moon. Captain Alara Kane paced across the bridge of the horizon's edge, her expression calm yet focused. The first counterstrike had been a success, but the war was far from over. She knew the aliens would not remain idle for long. Commander Soren approached, his face reflecting quiet pride. "Captain, the initial strike worked perfectly. The intelligence we recovered shows vulnerabilities in their command network. Their fleet coordination is weak and several sectors are under-defended. We can press the advantage," Alara nodded. "Exactly. The key is to maintain momentum. We cannot allow them to regroup. Our strikes must be precise, coordinated, and unpredictable. That is how we turn this tide in our favor." The human fleet moved with purpose, each ship following strict protocols and carefully planned routes. Engineers made last-minute adjustments to weapons and shields, while communication officers coordinated with strike teams that were preparing for targeted assaults. Every human on board understood their role and its importance. Across the cluster, the alien fleets were in chaos. Smaller ships drifted aimlessly, their crews confused and demoralized. Communications were fragmented, and reports of minor defeats spread fear among the ranks. Vorn tried to restore order, but his authority was undermined by repeated failures. Alara reviewed the holographic projections of the enemy fleet. "We cannot take unnecessary risks," she said. "Strike teams will target supply lines and command vessels simultaneously. Diversions must be subtle yet effective. We fight smart, not blindly." Lieutenant Ryan adjusted the targeting grid. "Captain, our small craft can strike multiple points at once. If we time it correctly, the enemy will be overwhelmed before they can respond. Even their advanced systems cannot match human coordination and adaptability." Alara smiled faintly. "Good. Humans are at their strongest when others underestimate them. That is exactly the advantage we have." The first operation of the day targeted an alien supply convoy. Humans used stealth tactics to approach from multiple angles, striking without warning. Explosions were precise, engines were disabled, and cargo ships drifted helplessly. Alien pilots scrambled to respond but were unable to form a coordinated counterattack. On the horizon's edge, the crew watched as their strike teams executed maneuvers flawlessly. Even the youngest cadets contributed, guiding drones and relays, ensuring every action was synchronized. The aliens had underestimated them at every turn, and the humans were proving that cleverness could match strength. "Target secured," Ryan reported. "Convoy disabled. No civilian casualties. Minimal exposure to our fleet," Alara nodded. "Good. Maintain position and continue surveillance. We need to anticipate their moves, not just react." As the humans struck again and again, the aliens' morale deteriorated further. High Chancellor Vorn's attempts to restore control only made matters worse. Officers argued over strategy, patrols became disorganized, and some ships withdrew entirely, fearing further losses. Captain Kane observed all of this with quiet satisfaction. She knew that war was not won by raw strength alone. It was won by adaptability, intelligence, and courage. Humans had learned to survive in impossible circumstances, and they were now using those lessons to take control of the battlefield. "Prepare for the next strike," Alara ordered. "This time we target their command nodes. If we can cripple their decision-making, the rest of the fleet will falter. We do not need to destroy them entirely, just take away their ability to coordinate." Lieutenant Ryan's eyes lit up. "Understood, Captain. Teams are ready and eager to engage. The enemy won't know what hit them." The human fleet moved with precision. Boarding pods detached, strike ships maneuvered with speed and stealth, and communication relays ensured every move was coordinated. The humans attacked simultaneously at multiple command nodes, each strike crippling critical systems. Inside the alien flagship, chaos erupted. Control rooms lost power, communication networks failed, and smaller vessels drifted without orders. Crew members panicked, unsure of what to do as the humans struck again and again. High Chancellor Vorn's confidence finally shattered. We cannot control them," he shouted, his voice trembling. How are these humans still alive? We have destroyed everything." An officer whispered fearfully. "Sir, they are clever. Faster than we expected. More adaptable than any of our simulations." Vorn's eyes narrowed, but he could not deny the truth. The humans had survived, adapted, and now held the advantage. His empire, which had seemed invincible, was being dismantled not by overwhelming force but by ingenuity, courage, and the relentless will to survive. Back on the human fleet, Captain Kane gathered her officers for a quick briefing. "The tide is turning," she said. "But we cannot grow complacent. They are still dangerous and desperation makes enemies unpredictable. We strike with precision, we move quickly, and we protect our people. That is how humans prevail." Commander Soren nodded. "Captain, the crew is ready. Morale is high. Even the youngest members understand the importance of their roles. Every human here is committed to this fight." Alara smiled. "Good. That commitment is our greatest strength. The aliens may have numbers and technology, but humans have creativity, courage, and the will to survive. That is why we endure. That is why we win." The next phase of the counteroffensive targeted larger alien vessels. Using knowledge gained from previous strikes, humans exploited weak points in shields, weapons, and navigation systems. Small craft darted in and out, striking with speed and disappearing before the aliens could react. Every hit was calculated, efficient, and effective. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Alara watched the results unfold. "Look at them scramble," she said softly. They believed victory was theirs. They celebrated too early, and now they see what it means to underestimate humans. Lieutenant Rian grinned. "They won't make that mistake again." "Not easily," Alara nodded. "And that is why this is only the beginning. Humanity's spirit cannot be crushed. Our strength is in our courage, our intelligence, and our ability to adapt. That is how we turn the tide, one battle at a time." The aliens' attempts to regroup were met with failure after failure. Strike teams disabled weapon systems, captured intelligence, and disrupted supply lines. Panic spread through the enemy fleet, and dissent began to grow among commanders. Even neutral alien civilizations, observing the conflict, began to take notice. Whispers of admiration and curiosity spread as stories of human ingenuity reached distant corners of the cluster. Humans were not just surviving, they were challenging one of the most powerful alliances in the galaxy and succeeding. Captain Kane addressed her crew one last time before the fleet rested. "Today, we have shown the galaxy that humans are never to be underestimated. We are small, yes, but we are clever, brave, and relentless. The tide has begun to turn in our favor, and we will continue to fight until victory is secured. Never forget what makes us strong. It is our spirit, our courage, and our refusal to surrender." The crew responded with quiet determination. Each member knew the weight of their mission, the stakes of their fight, and the importance of their role in this counteroffensive. Outside the fleet, the stars shone cold and indifferent, but within the human ships, a fire burned bright, a fire of courage, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit. The humans had survived, adapted, and now held the advantage. The Varkon Alliance, once so confident and arrogant, now faced the unexpected. Humans who refused to die, who refused to surrender, and who used every ounce of intelligence, creativity, and courage to fight back. Captain Kane looked at the stars, her eyes burning with purpose. Humanity had begun to turn the tide of this war, not through brute force, but through ingenuity, strategy, and courage. And when the next battle came, the galaxy would see the true strength of humans. For the first time in this conflict, the aliens realized that the humans they had once thought defeated were not only alive, they were unstoppable. The black void of space was calm, almost serene, but the tension within the Varkon cluster was anything but. The humans had survived every attempt to destroy them, and now, the fleet that had once seemed powerless had grown in courage, skill, and determination. Captain Alara Kane stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the enemy fleet. Every vessel was marked, every movement tracked. For days, humans had struck with precision, striking fear and confusion into the hearts of the Varkon Alliance. Now it was time for the final confrontation. Commander Soren approached, his face steady. "Captain, the enemy fleet is fractured. Their command vessels are crippled, patrols scattered, and morale is collapsing." "The time is now," Alara nodded. "Agreed, today we finish what we began. Every crew member must be at their best. Every decision must be precise. Humanity has survived against impossible odds, but now we strike for victory." Lieutenant Ryan adjusted the targeting displays. "All strike teams are in position. Boarding pods and attack craft are ready. We have multiple paths of approach. They won't know what hit them." Alara's hands rested lightly on the console. "Remember, we do not fight blindly. Our advantage is intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. If we use these well, no enemy can withstand us. As the human fleet moved into position, the Varkon alliance scrambled to react. Smaller ships attempted to regroup, while larger vessels tried to establish communication with their damaged command nodes. High Chancellor Vorn, his arrogance shattered, barked orders, but his crew was fractured and uncertain. On board the Horizon's Edge, crew members prepared quietly. Mechanics checked weapon systems, engineers calibrated energy flows, and communication officers relayed final instructions. Even the youngest cadets felt the weight of the moment, but they were filled with a sense of purpose. Every human understood that today could determine the future of their species. "Captain," Soren said, "strike teams are approaching the flagship. Boarding pods will be attached in 3 minutes. Diversion units are ready to distract their defenses." Ilara's gaze was steady. "Good. This is the moment the galaxy will remember. Humanity does not falter. Humanity does not surrender. And today we prove it." As the boarding pods detached, the humans moved with quiet precision. Their approach was swift and silent, slipping past alien sensors that had already been weakened by previous strikes. The flagship, once a symbol of invincible power, now faced the full ingenuity of humanity. Inside the flagship, chaos reigned. Crew members scrambled, trying to restore systems, but every repair was met with a new human strike. Communications were severed, engines faltered, and weapons malfunctioned. Panic spread, and the alien crew realized too late that the humans were not only surviving, they were taking control. Commander Soren led his team through maintenance corridors, planting charges and disabling critical systems. Energy flows were rerouted, shields weakened, and navigation systems manipulated. Every action was calculated, every move precise. Humans struck with skill, not force, and each strike brought them closer to victory. Meanwhile, strike craft outside engaged smaller vessels with speed and ingenuity. Using evasive maneuvers, they disabled weapons, disrupted shields, and left alien pilots disoriented. The enemy fleet, once confident and arrogant, now drifted in chaos. On the flagship's bridge, High Chancellor Vorn's desperation was clear. They cannot be stopped," he shouted. Officers trembled as they tried to maintain order, but their attempts failed. Systems failed, ships were lost, and the humans advanced with unyielding determination. Back on the Horizon's Edge, Captain Kane issued the final orders. "Prepare to board the command deck. This is our last strike. We secure the flagship, capture their intelligence, and demonstrate to the galaxy that humanity cannot be defeated." Lieutenant Rian's team moved swiftly, disabling the remaining defenses. Boarding pods attached to the flagship and teams infiltrated key areas. The humans moved with purpose, neutralizing threats, securing systems, and maintaining precise coordination. Inside the flagship, alien soldiers resisted, but human ingenuity and teamwork overcame every obstacle. Doors were sealed, corridors controlled, and critical nodes captured. The humans advanced calmly, efficiently, and without hesitation. High Chancellor Vorn, realizing his flagship was compromised, attempted to flee, but his path was blocked by human forces. He stared in disbelief as Captain Kane and her team approached. "Humans," he whispered, "how is this possible?" Ilara Kane stepped forward, her posture calm and confident. "You celebrated victory too early," she said simply. "You underestimated us. Humanity survives, adapts, and overcomes. That is why we are still here, and that is why today you face defeat." With that, the remaining alien forces surrendered. The flagship was under human control, and the rest of the fractured fleet had no choice but to retreat or comply. The tide of battle had shifted completely, and humanity stood victorious. Back on the Horizon's Edge, the crew erupted in quiet celebration. They had achieved what had once seemed impossible. The humans had not relied on overwhelming numbers or advanced technology alone. They had relied on intelligence, courage, adaptability, and unyielding spirit. Captain Kane addressed her fleet. "Today, humanity has proven its strength, not through force alone, but through ingenuity, teamwork, and perseverance. The galaxy has witnessed what humans can achieve when we refuse to surrender. This victory is not just for us. It is for every human who has ever dared to survive against impossible odds." Commander Soren added, "Our fleet may be small, but our courage and creativity have turned the tide. We have shown that humans can face any challenge, and we will continue to do so." Across the cluster, whispers of admiration and fear spread. Alien civilizations, once confident of their dominance, now recognized the unique strength of humanity. Humans had turned apparent defeat into triumph, proving that courage and intelligence could challenge even the most powerful empires. In the aftermath of the battle, Captain Kane reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had faced destruction, loss, and overwhelming odds, yet they had survived. Each challenge had strengthened them. Each setback had taught them lessons, and each moment had prepared them for this ultimate victory. The stars above were indifferent, but humanity had made its mark. Humans had survived, adapted, and triumphed, demonstrating that no matter how small or outnumbered, their spirit was unstoppable. High Chancellor Vorn, humbled and defeated, was escorted from the flagship. He looked at the humans who had bested him and understood something he had never considered. Humans were not defined by their size, technology, or numbers. They were defined by their courage, ingenuity, and unyielding will. Captain Kane watched him silently, her calm gaze reflecting the pride of her people. "Remember this," she said quietly. "Humans are never finished until they choose to be. Underestimate us and you will see the consequences." Back on the fleet, crew members shared quiet moments of joy and relief. They had won not through luck but through strategy, teamwork, and an unshakable belief in themselves. Humanity had survived and now stood ready to protect their place in the galaxy. As the humans moved to secure and repair captured alien ships, they also rescued prisoners and gathered intelligence. Every action reflected their commitment to survival, morality, and the greater good. They had proven that even in the darkest hour, humans could rise above adversity and emerge victorious. Captain Kane stood on the bridge one last time, looking out at the stars. "This is only the beginning," she said. "Humanity has survived the impossible, and the galaxy will never forget this day. We have shown that courage, intelligence, and determination define us, not size, numbers, or arrogance. And as long as humans endure, we will continue to rise, adapt, and thrive." The stars above shimmered, silent witnesses to humanity's triumph. The Varkon cluster had learned a powerful lesson. Humans were not to be underestimated. Their spirit, ingenuity, and courage had turned near defeat into the greatest victory the galaxy had ever seen. In that moment, humanity stood proud, victorious, and unbroken. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged stronger than ever, proving that no force in the universe could extinguish the human spirit. And somewhere, deep within the fleet, Captain Kane smiled, knowing that humanity's story was far from over. The galaxy had witnessed the strength of humans, and it would never forget.